We're back on the Early Edge on CBS Sports Network, and I'm joined again by Mackenzie, Larry, and Danny. Let's talk some player props. We got a lot to get through. We specialize on these things over at SportsLine. Mackenzie, I am going to start with you. Passing prop. What's your favorite?
This feels wrong because I am a big Justin Herbert truther here, and I have been throughout the summer. But I do think his passing yard line is just getting a little bit inflated. So I'm going to take the under on it tonight in a primetime game, under the 256.5. This was as low as 224.5 in week one. So again, while I do respect them giving more respect to Justin Herbert, I just think we're going to see more of a ground and pound game like we were all mentioning before. And I just don't necessarily think we're going to have to get to a point where he's throwing for 300 plus yards again.
I'm looking at Justin Herbert prop as well, Sia, and I like him not to throw an interception at minus 154. These odds are a little bit alarming to me because, of course, we all remember the last thing we saw, and that's Justin Herbert throwing 4 interceptions in the playoffs. But how about what he did in the regular season? Just 3 games with an interception over 17. We do a little bit of simple math on that, Sia. That's about 17% of the time. Minus 154 is closer to 60% implied odds. It means we have about a 40% implied probability edge. I really like this bet. All he's got to do is not have one go off Quentin Johnston's hands. I think Herbert cannot throw a pick tonight.
C.J. Stroud to go over 20.5 completions. This is the dream matchup for quarterbacks. You play the Bucs, who are a pass funnel. They were all of last year. And then in week one, it basically looked like nothing had changed. You cannot run against them. Bijan Robinson totally bottled up, but Michael Penix completed 27 passes. I look for a lot of quick throws from C.J. Stroud. He had 19 against the Rams. He's going to get at least 21 tonight.
I look for a lot of quick throws, too, especially behind that just very porous offensive line. But, Larry, I'm going to go with his over attempts. So I think both of us can hit you here. His over attempts is 32.5 at minus 105. Again, I just don't think they're going to be able to run the ball in any sort of moderately neutral game script, certainly a negative game script, too, if it goes there. I think he's going to have to put the ball in the air. Short area, over 32.5 pass attempts. Let's go to rushing props. Danny Brasco, I'm going to start with you.
I'm looking at the RB2 on the Chargers depth chart tonight. I'm hoping the Chargers get an early lead and give the ball to Najee Harris. I think he can go over his modest rushing yards total. It's only 18.5 now. And really, I'm betting on him to get involved in the game. We saw rookie running back Omarion Hampton really take the load and become that bona fide starter in week one. 15 carries for 48 yards, running into walls a little bit. So coming back from Brazil, a short week here. I think that Najee Harris, who actually isn't as hurt as we thought he was after that weird fireworks incident, his eye seems okay. I think he can get involved in the offense a little bit more. So we get 5 to 7 carries. I think he can get 20 yards and cash this prop for us.
I'm going to go to Ashton Genty here. Again, another guy I am high on, but I just feel like we're getting some really inflated lines from week one to week two. He had 19 rush attempts in week one, and although that was a game that ended up with only 33 points, it felt like there were a lot more plays than you would think there would be for a 33-point game here. So I just think he's due for like 15, but to ask him to get 19 again in this game. Also, if Brock Bowers isn't playing as much, I don't think they'll be in a lot of third and short situations, so I just don't think we'll have the same usage that we saw in week one. Again, good usage, probably around 15, but closer to 20 rush attempts is a lot to ask of somebody.
Nick Chubb looked pretty good last week, 60 yards against the Rams, but I just don't see it against Tampa Bay. This Tampa Bay Buccaneers run defense with Vita Vea right in the middle totally shut down the Falcons' rushing attack, and we saw the Falcons last night on Sunday Night Football. We saw what that rushing game can look like. That tells you how good Tampa is against the run, and I just believe it's a passing game script for the Texans. I'm going under on Chubb's yards.
I love the correlation there, too, with respect to the Chubb under and then what you have with the completions on C.J. Stroud. I like that Chubb under as well, under 51.5 rushing yards. I mean, listen, I know he's going to get the lion's share of the work, but they do have some other running backs that they mix in that situationally could be in there to gobble up some carries as well. Receiving props. Larry, I'm going right back to you for this one.
Chalky, but I love Ladd McConkey again to go over his receiving yards. 74 or more in 8 of his last 9 games, had 9 targets. He also lit up the Raiders in the last meeting that they have in Vegas at the end of last season. He's just the clear number 1 in a very high-octane passing attack. Let's go Ladd to get at least 75 again.
I'm in on that because I am in on the under Quentin Johnson 3.5 receptions. Look, 2 claps for him to catching his balls. Getting targeted 7 times is not the big deal. Catching 5 of them was definitely the big deal. But we just got to go back to our old ways here. At the end of the day, he's catching under 60% of his targets. He's 70% to this under going back to last season again because this is just Quentin Johnson, okay? Let's not overthink this here. I think while we have a solid price for him to go under his receptions, we got to capitalize on this.
Man, put some respect on Quentin Johnson's name, Kens, because yes, we know he's had drop issues, but he's playing a Raiders team that Pete Carroll, head coach, does employ a large percentage of zone defense. And who was the #1 receiver in terms of touchdowns against zone defense last year? Quentin Johnston with 8 TDs against zone coverage. So if that zone's out there, QJ should have his chances. I like him at an anytime touchdown at plus 240.
We talked about something on the morning show that I think is appropriate here, negative correlating receptions with anytime touchdowns with over and receiving yards. So you could take Mackenzie's under. Danny, we can parlay that with your touchdown prop and at a third leg his over receiving yards. So what we're looking at is a couple of deep shots that he catches, scores a touchdown, and we get that negative correlation and that boost with respect to the parlay because we're taking the under in his actual receptions. I actually think that's a good bet. I'm just going to throw that out there. I like Jacoby Myers over 5.5 receptions. He'll get force fed just like Brock Bowers will to some degree. We'll see if Brock Bowers is shaky with his injury, but I expect Geno to throw the ball a lot. Jacoby is very clear-cut, his #1 wide receiver. Let's go to a game or team prop. Mackenzie, you've got a money line play on the Buccaneers.
I am always in on the Buccaneers on the road. It's something I've had success with going back to last season and even last week too. But this is a team that, for whatever reason, I'm not going to pretend I know the ins and outs of this. Their offense is better on the road. They're averaging 4 points more on the road. You look at Baker Mayfield, he always seems so comfortable in that situation. I just don't think this Houston offense can put up points. I don't think it was a fluke last week. I don't think it was a fluke going into last season either. So I'm going to fade the Houston Texans when I can, and I always like the Bucs on the road.
I'm going to go to that Raiders game and go with Devin White over 5.5 tackles and assists. He was plucked off the scrap heap, used to be a stud in Tampa Bay, drafted 5th overall, but he got released by the Eagles last season. The Raiders picked him up. Now he's their signal caller. He led the team with 11 tackles in week 1. And what Danny talked about, they play so much zone that leads to tackles by the linebackers. And I like the Chargers to run a lot of plays. They ran 62 in week 1. The longer the Chargers are on the field, the better it is for this prop.
I love that bet. And I love this one, too. I'm going with Danielle Hunter to get over a quarter sack at good plus money odds, plus 155. Something that people aren't pointing out on the Buccaneers, I think, enough is that not only is their left tackle Tristan Wirfs out, but Luke Gedke, their right tackle, may not play either. And if they're missing both tackles, that defensive line is going to cause Baker Mayfield some serious problems. Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter and company, I think they're going to get pressure. And I think at least one time Danielle Hunter gets his hand on the quarterback for at least half a sack. So I like that.
All right. That is, I like that play as well. Love that D-line. Let's talk about some fun bets real quick before we go to break. How about first touchdown score in the first game, Bucs-Texans, and then we'll do Chargers-Raiders. A little bit of rapid fire here. Larry, I'm going to start with you.
Xavier Hutchinson, 25-1, the #2 receiver, ran the second most targets to Nico Collins. What I like is they will also give him the ball on running plays, 25-1 for Xavier Hutchinson.
I'm going long shot, Sia, plus 2,200. Houston Texans to score the first touchdown of the game. Baker Mayfield had 4 turnover-worthy plays last week. It's going unnoticed that they were pretty lucky to get away with that. I think this week maybe one goes to the house. Give me a pick 6 and a Houston Texans first TD touchdown.
Wow, it's a lot more exciting than mine. I'm going Mike Evans here. I think now that you have a shiny new rookie to take away some defensive attention, books are making it seem like that it's not going to be as likely for Evans. So now we just get a better price, but now he's single covered. So I like it a lot better.
All right, that is a good price at plus 850. You think yours is long, Danny. I raised, but only by 1. 23-1, I'm getting Sterling Shepard, who plays in the slot. Got a lot of targets last week. Clearly, his usage is a little bit more than people anticipated. I certainly think the Bucs could score first here, and I like that Sterling Shepard in the slot is a reliable target for Baker Mayfield. All right, first touchdown pick for Chargers-Raiders. Mackenzie.
I'm just going with vibes here. I got to go with my Georgia Bulldog, Brock Bowers. If he is healthy, we're getting a lot better value now with this play. Love to see a tight end score first here. Got to go with my dog.
Going with old reliable Keenan Allen, scored in week 1, scored the last 2 times he faced the Raiders. And, this is the security blanket down near the goal line, that slant route. We've seen it a million times. Let's see it again tonight.
The fireworks spared Najee Harris's eye, and now he will get into the end zone in week 2. He's ready to roll. He'll get involved in this offense this week. See, I like his rushing yards prop, and I like him to maybe find a score at plus 1,200.
Danny, I'm going with your guy, QJ, Quentin Johnston, maybe contested catch in the end zone again. We're working this reverse correlation, anytime touchdown, over receiving yards, under receptions on Quentin Johnston. He's your first touchdown scorer at 13-1.